As long as it's not like 2 hours or something
No,
of
it's
audio
it's like
from
a
you,
minute.
Dan.
I'm a minute recording for a minute and 20 right now.
Dan's just sitting there with a half hour of garbage that you have to scrub through to find out when he says, "I'm Dan."
It's not the length of the pre-roll, it's the quality of the pre-roll.
You don't. No one else was recording, so it's just Dan's words. It's like you got yourself a smash cut of everything Dan can say in a half hour,
Oh boy.
Yes.
out of context. The
I'm
best.
going to listen to that before going to sleep.
Ooh,
Bonus Dan rant.
Me having a one-sided conversation with myself.
I like this. I like the sound of this.
it's a lot less ranty when he's in pre-show. Probably because we're not talking about the movie yet.
It's going to put me right to sleep. Hey, I'm Joe.
I'm Ken.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Dan.
We're the Rewinders Podcast, rewinding movies to see if they hold up. And this time, we unfurled the map of time and space and fell through some black squares to see the movie Time Bandits.
I apologize, guys. I remember this movie so much more differently than it actually is. I was really excited to watch this movie, and because I'm out visiting family, my family watched it with me at the same time, and
Interesting.
yeah, there were a lot of questions that I didn't have answers for.
I would love to be present for a group watching for this film. I would love to see other people's reactions. I'd love to see. I feel like any Terry Gilliam film would be amazing to just sit back and watch how it hits people differently.
Are they around? Can we get like a one-take review from everyone?
I mean, I could try to get like a few sentences from everybody. It would take a little bit of time, and I'd have to because they're not nearby. I'm at my hotel, and they're all at my sister's house right now because her internet is not as good as the hotel internet is. So
And I'll say that this movie did have the feel of that Howie Mandel, Fred Savage movie we watched, Little Monsters.
Ooh, good call. I like that.
But ultimately, I believe that perhaps we got Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure because of this movie, because time travel. So maybe something good came out of it. There was some good stuff out of it. It was a fun movie. But yeah, we'll get into that.
So, what is everyone's history with Time Bandits?
late tens and teens was the last time. Late tens, or no, early tens. So 10, 11, 12 was when I watched it the first time. And I know I've watched it a couple other times after that, but that was probably when I was in middle school, beginning high school, and I hadn't watched it since until yesterday.
So was it something that you had just passed by, or did it have any significance to you that you sought it
If I
out?
remember correctly, I saw it on the shelf at the rental place, and the cover art was what got me. The ship with the grid line, like the map grid lines in the distance, and it was literally just the cover of the VHS box that got me to rent. I mean, that's basically how I rented any of my movies when I was little.
Judging books by covers. That's the best way to do it.
I think this movie was something I watched not in full, but in pieces, off and on when I was younger. And I'm going to say that's because I don't think my parents were really into the genre, I'll say, of Terry Gilliam. My dad's more of a Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of man, and my mom's a Lifetime channel / romantic movie kind of lady. So this doesn't really fall in line with those categories. But I do recall seeing scenes of this, not together, but separate, and I was like, oh yeah. That, and plus I love Terry Gilliam's work.
I had never seen the movie. When growing up, I watched a lot of Monty Python, so it's actually kind of a surprise we never made our way over to this movie. And actually, this movie probably would have played pretty okay in my house growing up. However, we just never did, and I just never made my way to this movie for whatever reason. I can't even tell you why.
Yeah, this is This is a weird one for me. So I've passed this movie up probably at least a couple dozen times. I don't know why. I've always wanted to watch it. I just never got around to it. It was like Dan said, I always saw the cover. I've seen the cover in pop culture as well. Like, people have posters of this film's cover in their backgrounds, so like rooms and stuff like that. It's like, what is Time Bandits? It just sounds fun. It's got a great name. What is this? And I never looked into it. I never realized it was a Terry Gilliam film, and I never really looked at the premise or anything. So I kind of wanted to go into this completely blind, and that's what I did. And I'm glad I took that stance, because it was the same thing with Brazil when I watched that for the first time maybe like 6-7 months ago. That was an experience walking into blind as well. So I'm glad I finally had a reason to watch this movie, because like I said, it's been one of those ones that I've passed up so many times for no reason whatsoever. It's just one of those movies I was just like, yeah, I'll get around to watching that eventually. But here we are.
It's interesting you say going into blind, because I also went into this one blind. And normally, when things come out and people are like, "Oh, I want to talk about this," and they're like, "Have you seen it?" Like, spoil away. I don't care. If I watch it, I'll watch it. Not a big deal if you spoil it. And even like Loki right now, very very cool thing to try not to spoil for people. Yeah, whatever, just talk about it. Nobody ever does spoil things for me, which is very weird to me, 'cause I feel like they're really eking to get it out, and I'm giving them the permission to.
So
Anyway,
I'm hearing you're a robot, Ken.
I, yeah, I haven't watched Brazil, and now I kind of don't want to have that anything spoiled about that. I kind of want to go into that one blind.
Oh, Brazil,
Do
you
it.
can't have
Do it.
anything.
Do it.
You have to jump into Brazil.
So good. It's
I
so
haven't
good.
watched Brazil, and I haven't watched The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, so I don't know.
Oh,
I'm
so good.
I'm halfway through Baron Munchausen. That was a surprise movie. So I watched Brazil, and Brazil's just like this profound movie that just the second I clicked it, it's nothing like what I expected, and I was just taken back and just kind of like it's one of those movies that shell shocks the shit out of you, and you just stop looking at your phone. You're staring at the screen like, what the hell am I watching? And that's how it felt the entire time. And then Baron Munchausen, I checked that out right away afterwards. I couldn't really get into it right away, but then it started growing on me. Like I said, I'm about halfway through, just never finished it. But I had that exact same thing on this, and that's I'm starting to realize that's just Terry Gilliam. When you jump into a Terry Gilliam movie, it's like jumping into someone's brain, as you're just caught in this like whirlpool of all their thoughts and emotions and craziness spiraling all around you. It is such an experience, and I've really grown to appreciate that.
He definitely does not piece his movies together with clean starts, clean ends, the whole hero's journey and stuff like that. It doesn't deviate far, but it also doesn't follow the rules as well. It's such a refreshing take on bringing in that kind of creativity. I love it. I love this stuff.
No, that's an amazing way to put it, because that sums up exactly how I feel towards watching the last 3 movies of his. Is there's no typical narrative. There's no typical arch. There's no typical format, like you said. You're just thrown into this shit, and stuff's just happening all around you. It builds, it deflates, it drags a little bit, it builds back up, and then usually it's capped off by something like completely wacky or something really funny at the end. And it's just, it's such an adventure.
Except for this movie. It's just sad.
I don't know, I loved the ending.
Oh yeah.
As I was watching it, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, oh man, I really want to go back and watch Holy Grail again, like the 40th time I always do in my head, because I love that ending, that abrupt police car coming to take them away. And I felt the same kind of like feel, the same vein in the ending of this film. When that came by, it was just like, what the hell? I just couldn't stop laughing my ass off. It was, what a trip. What a trip. I'm excited to talk about this.
You know how the end, you're talking the end of Monty Python, and they get arrested. Spoilers. Sorry, that's supposed to go before you say the spoiler. Anyway, they get arrested, and that kind of happened because in real life the police came down and shut down shooting. So that's kind of what happened. In this movie, they kind of did the same thing, where a lot of what they were doing in the movie was just based on the feelings that were going through the cast. I had read that the part where they turn on the person who's being the leader in this movie, they had actually the guy who was being the leader type person was being very standoffish, and the rest of the crew was kind of being like
So
not
you're talking
very
about
positive towards him. So
David Rappaport?
I couldn't tell you names. I can barely tell you.
Randall?
I watched this. Yeah, I think it was Randall.
Yeah.
I watched this like 3 weeks ago. Anyway, they had written in the mutiny because there was a actual real life headbutting going on this on set. So like, there's various things in this movie that happen just because and I'm imagining now pretty much all their movies that they're just like, well, this is happening in real life. Let's throw it in the movie.
That's amazing. I like that.
Yeah.
I like a little bit of that background drama sensibility from some of these things. It's like having that little nugget of wisdom is always fun to know how the film came together and the kind of the struggles they went through. I completely off topic, but I read recently Stranger Things. You guys all know how the Byers have had a dog in the first season. They had a family dog, and then it just disappears for the rest of the show. And I guess David Harbour just like lost his shit while they were filming season 1, and the dog would not listen. The dog would not do the stuff it was supposed to do. So Harbour was pretty reserved and never really had any issues on set, but he just couldn't stand working with the dog because the dog just continuously kept missing cues, and they just kept having to do reshoots to the point where he finally walked off set to go back to his trailer. And at one point, he actually joked to the directors. He's like, "Can we just kill the dog off? Can the dog just die by the next season?" And they kind of did because they never once mention it.
Yeah.
I guess they were planning on doing like a scene with like a gravestone with the dog's name on it in the Byers' backyard or something.
Didn't the dog get eaten by the Gorgon?
Never brought it up.
I thought the dog got eaten by the Gorgon.
No, it never comes up again. Nobody ever talks about the dog. The dog just disappears.
They put enough time between seasons where you just forget about the dog. It's not like the dog was a major plot point or anything. It would have just been around.
Yeah, I mean, it was just there to growl at things in the first season, and that's about it.
I could have sworn the dog got killed by the Gorgon. God, I have no recollection of the show.
Well, luckily I can go back and watch it.
I just love his quote. His quote is exactly, "I hated that fucking dog. I hated that fucking dog so bad." It just makes me so happy.
Poor dog.
I know. It's just trying to do its best, and whatever.
So, if you have not seen the film Time Bandits, here's a short summation. There's a little UK boy in cheery old England who's treated like a little kid in cheery old England, where children are to be seen but not heard. And that kid makes the grave mistake of being excited about things and wanting to talk to his parents. And that's the downfall of this child. Being intellectually stimulated by history and wanting to talk about it. Then we are left to think that his wild imagination takes him on a ride through time with these gentlemen that are referred to as Time Bandits. And they are running away from the
Supreme Being.
Supreme Being, thank you. I was going to say Ultimate Fighter. No, the Supreme Being, which is a talking head that flies at them. And they have a map that shows them how to jump through time and space. And they have hilarious hijinks and silliness. And at no time is anything really feel dangerous. But there are some serious stuff that happens along the way. And yeah, then they fight Supreme Evil and they win. And then everything just kind of goes back. Not to normal, but goes back. And then, like Andy said, there is a fun final scene that leaves you going,
How
wait
is
a
this
minute.
fun? I'm going to argue that this is a fun final scene.
For dark humorists, it's a very fun ending.
Yes.
Oh, right. It's been 3 weeks. I remember now.
Just how normalized it is.
It's
And
so
everyone
good.
just continues with their life like that didn't happen.
The firefighters just pack up and leave. Like, it's just the greatest ending. But I have to compliment the design and the scenes involving the Supreme Being. I was slack-jawed. I set my phone down. I was staring at the screen. I was laughing my ass off because that is my kind of humor, and it was just the most bizarre, surreal thing. Just a head floating, shouting, "Return what you have stolen from me." It was the greatest thing for me that I've seen in a long time. I love that. That whole hallway sequence was just so... incredible. It's great.
It's a great way to kick off your surrealism, where you get a bunch of dwarves just falling into your room, and then all of a sudden they're pushing your walls away. Like, whoa!
I know. It's just like after witnessing that, it's just like you know what you're in for. You know what's coming up, and it's just hold on, get ready for the ride. There's just nothing that can prepare you for this.
You'd think with that kind of reality bending, they wouldn't really have any sort of other problems because they could just, push their way through bars or make themselves a path so they don't have to swing around and almost fall off a cliff. But they really seem to reserve these magic tricks for when
They're needed.
it's the most bizarre and needed.
Like when they're going to steal Napoleon's hoard of gold that fills an entire room, but they pack it all into a tapestry that they drag with them.
And did they really need all that gold? Why not? It'd be a lot easier to get out of there unscathed without all of it. And then the time holes, man. If we're talking inconsistencies, like, oh, we can go anywhere we want in time, whenever we want. Like, we just have to find the right spot that's going to be going to the right place, and we have to be near it. And there's a lot of stipulations for anywhere in time.
And the holes open and close.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's no real explanation how they know where they go and stuff like that. So it definitely leaves a gray area for your imagination to fill in. But if you're analytical, you're like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's me. This entire movie, was I watching? I mean, there was a couple of things that I really liked. Like, I forgot that, Sean Connery's a real fucking looker at the beginning when he was young. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, I was shocked he didn't have gray hair. It was crazy.
Oh, and I just swore. I gotta. Sorry.
Once I heard his voice, it's just like, oh my god, I didn't realize he was in this, and I got really excited. And same thing with Ian Holm. When Ian Holm just shows up, it's like, holy shit, yes, this is fantastic.
But they have Sean Connery wear a helmet when he first shows up, just so they could eke out the, hey, who is this guy? A little bit longer, even though you hear the voice, you're like, hey, wait a minute.
Yep.
I know that voice.
That's not Bond.
And they definitely pull the attention away as he's fighting a very surreal, grunting bullheaded gentleman. Just, oh my god.
I think it's supposed to be a minotaur,
but it's not. It's clearly a helmet.
It's just
like
a
when
dude
he
with a cow head.
Yeah, like when he holds up the helmet and says whatever he says about the enemy of the city being slain, whatever it was, you can see the two straps dangling down. It's unabashedly a helmet. So I was watching the scene, and I'm like, is this just like a poorly done minotaur? And I was giggling like crazy because it was making like the bull grunts. But then when the guy dies, he just takes the helmet off. It's like, wait, that's just a guy? And it just...
Kayfabe, man. You gotta stick with the kayfabe. You make people believe you.
Yeah. I just... I'm not used to so many surrealistic things just punched in one after another. It's a fun ride. I love it.
And I mean, when you first start the movie up and you see the names John Cleese, Sean Connery, Ian Holm, Michael Palin, and then you get follow-ons later that didn't make top billing, like Jim Broadbent. Jim Broadbent is great, and he has the game show role. Then he does great in, and it's just a small role, but that's like UK filmmaking. You have all these really good, top-quality actors that take small roles and make your whole film just packed full of really awesome powerhouse actors.
Was Jim Broadbent a powerhouse actor at that time?
No, I don't think so.
Had an amazing career over the last however many... yeah, he's great.
I think he started taking off in the 90s. I really like him from Topsy Turvy.
I didn't realize that George Harrison was in this movie. Like, what the hell? I know he was...
I know he's a huge...
Right.
I know he's a huge Monty Python fan. I didn't realize he was in this.
Okay, so no, George Harrison, he mortgaged his office building so he could finance his film.
What a nice guy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, really wanted to make this particular movie.
Hopefully it worked out for him.
Yeah, because it was back in Life of Brian that he created handmade films to help out with the funding on it, because if I recall correctly, they didn't get a lot of money for Life of Brian, and the studio was kind of like looking to back out. especially based off of the subject matter.
Oh, right.
And
Yep.
George Harrison was all on board because he absolutely loved Monty Python, so he wanted to do anything he could to help out.
That's where my things are getting crossed. Man, that George Harrison really liked the old Monty Python stuff a lot, whole lot.
Yeah, I had no idea he was in this movie. I kind of want to go back and try to pick him out.
So, I mean, we're doing a good job of talking about things that we enjoy from this film.
Yeah, like remember the Robin Hood scene where you get like
Yes.
these terrible marauding band of people. It's right after they get the gold because Robin's like, thank you so much for this gold. It's a great. The poor people are gonna love this, and like all the everyone around him is just like, well, this gold is for us, but they're not saying it to Robin Hood. It's a very funny take on how the merry men around Robin Hood would be acting.
I also like the guy punching every poor person who takes a piece of
You
gold.
get,
Yeah,
you get your gold, you get a punch in the face. Good trade
Is that
off.
truly necessary? Yes.
I take a couple of pounds worth of gold for a punch to the face. That's money right there.
yes.
I also like how it's like supreme evil or whatever that character. He's just evil. And he's obsessed with technology and thinks that the other supreme being is just not with the times. He's got to get on board with silicon and CPUs.
The Silicon Revolution or whatever. Yeah.
Yep.
So you could probably say that he won in the long run.
I mean, it totally takes any possibility of being, possibly long term, that's too scary, and removes that. Plus, having Beetlejuice style things coming out of your head.
There was an attention to detail that went throughout the entire movie, where like it's supposed to be a kid's dream kind of thing. So they kind of put things all the way through up into the very last scene, where in the intro scene where he goes to bed, you're in his room, and you look around, and it is the messiest room I have ever seen in my life. And I was like, wow, that's a lot of set dressing going on here. This
Yeah,
is
but it actually looks like a
moving
kid's room
insane.
instead of being, a quote unquote. You can't see me doing the air quotes. It's a child's room.
They really focus up on it, and you're sitting there like, wow, this is, and then they bring it back like, oh, you're a messy kid. You should be clean up after yourself. At one point, somebody says, and then at the end of the movie where there's the big fight, like everything that's in the big fight is in his room. The tank, the space blaster, everything else. Like,
And you get it when it all gets smashed when he gets pulled out of his room by the firefighters.
yeah,
Like that entire set is there, and that kind of detail. That was definitely one of my notes there.
The theater where Napoleon's watching the puppet show, that's in the background in his room.
Yep.
Yeah, the whole Middle Ages stuff. He had all the knights on his wall.
Lights in
A
the
lot of callbacks, a lot of setting things up.
That puppet show is probably the biggest belly laugh I had in this movie. Well, one of them. Just the muttering voice of what's happening? That was just, oh my god. There's just so many good one-off like random punch jokes that happen in just like a couple of seconds, and it's hard for me to not get excited and talk about this too much.
I like that they portrayed Napoleon as being obsessed with everyone's height and knew every great commander's height and just getting plastered and just rattling them off.
to the detriment of actual history, he said he was 5'1", and Napoleon was actually 5'6" or 7.
Yep.
So he wasn't terribly short, but that's the thing, and it does make for a very fun joke.
Yeah,
Lots of
absolutely.
jokes.
So, interesting tidbit. I read this. Did you guys realize that Sean Connery wasn't actually supposed to be in the movie?
Oh no.
wait, what? Really?
They were doing the screenplay, and apparently they wrote in the Minotaur fight, and when they go to take the dude's helmet off, they wrote, revealing it to be none other than Sean Connery or somebody of equal or lesser pay. Something along those lines. I just wrote it in as a complete joke, but then apparently George Harrison was golfing with Connery, brought up the idea, and Connery was on board.
God damn it!
Nice.
Just what a nice save.
I believe I had also read that Sean Connery's recording had his time to record was spent on like the Agamemnon part, and so he was done. He actually flew in on his own time to record that last scene.
Yeah. He mentioned to Terry, wouldn't it be great if I came back as like a fireman at the end or something? And then he came back. Oh, it's too good. It's too good. And apparently he helped him out with the film as well. He like credits him to kind of breaking down some of the more elaborate things he had planned, storyboarded and everything for the time with Connery. Like, Connery basically just came in and started shuffling through saying, you're not going to get this done, you can't do that, and kind of like broke down things and made it more manageable versus the complete chaotic structure and time that he was planning on actually filming. So it sounds like Connery was just like a blessing in disguise. He just kind of came onto the picture it's just perfect.
No wonder why that part of the movie felt a little bit more put together, and it was so much longer than all the other parts of the movie. Like, they got so much more done with that part of the movie because somebody's like, hey, here's how you do this a lot quicker.
Yeah. He even said that. He said something along the lines of, like, and all of a sudden it felt like there was a professional on set showing me how to do things. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I just love the fact that he was just written in as a joke, and then sure enough, he's in the production.
Yeah, shoot your shot, right? That's what they say.
Yep.
A little something that may get passed over that I found very funny. Not only did the parents' house have like this kitchen that they wanted to have all these technology items in that don't quite work, a la later Gremlins, but their furniture is wrapped in plastic. And that was a fun joke when I was young because I saw it all the time in that people wanted to preserve their furniture, keep it as nice as possible, so you wrap it in plastic. And I never knew anyone who actually did it, but I always found it funny that was something people apparently did. And seeing it here just made me feel like being young again, and that was a popular joke. But you go further down the line, and the evil guy has the same thing. All his furniture is wrapped in plastic as well.
His furniture and his grunts, his minions are also wrapped in plastic.
Exactly.
And he is addicted to technology, just like the parents.
Oh yeah.
I guarantee he doesn't peel the little plastic film off his new computers.
That monster. Oh man, that is just peeling plastic. That protective plastic off of any piece of new tech is such a form of catharsis.
Not for everyone.
It depends on the device. Sometimes I leave the plastic layer on because I'm like, I want this to remain as new as possible until it looks like garbage, and then I'm like, well, it's not doing anything to make it look nice, so then I rip it off, and I'm like, I saved the surface of this device about a year's worth of wear and tear.
That was Nicole. She left the screen protector on her center console on the CRV for the first year that she owned it, and of course there was just this little tiny peel in the corner that was up, and it was of course dirty, and the rest of it was clean, and there's like a bubble, and it drove me insane riding in the car not being able to pull that off until one day I got it and it was off. She had finally pulled it off after a year.
So my mom got her last car, or her current car was used. She got it used. One of the days, I was at their house and I was looking at the back of their car, and it's a VW Beetle, so I was looking at the VW badge. I'm like, why is the VW logo blue? And I walked up to it and I looked, and it had the entire logo had perfectly cut film on it. Oh, God. And I'm like, Mom, whoever owned the car before you didn't take they must have bought the car from VW directly.
Or they replaced the VW logo with an off-market one, and they put the blue stuff on there, and protect it during shipping.
Or something. Yeah, apparently the owners had never taken it off, and the car was already 6 years old.
That's so good.
And so, that car must have gotten washed a couple of times, you'd think.
Some good protective
plastic. And it you barely had to do anything to get the plastic to come off. It just peeled right off. But anyways, what we're talking about a movie, right?
Yeah.
Time Bandits.
Yeah.
Way to steal some time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought was going to happen in this movie. I thought they were going to steal time. Look how stupid I am.
Oh.
They were going through time and stealing.
We were so young and
That made
naive.
More sense. So much more sense. I just watched it 3 weeks ago for the first time. So, young and naive. Maybe I should have known better.
I mean, I don't think we could have known anything, Ken. Nothing could have prepared me for the gentleman under the ship. That's probably one of my favorite scenes in all cinema history.
That scene was the tipping point for the living room.
Oh, God.
What the hell are we watching?
I could absolutely see people just dividing at that point. You got this giant guy yawning coming out of the ocean, It's just
with the ship strapped to his head because it's clearly not just sitting there.
that is the exact point where I could see people just like you just lose people. I love that.
Their idea is to drill a hole in this guy's head and dump something green
Some kind of poison.
Sleeping juice
to the brain.
Sleeping juice. Yeah. First they try smacking him with a hammer. That doesn't do anything.
That part was a bit unsettling for me.
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved it for the sake of the little shack with the bickering couple and the screaming baby. It's just like, what the hell? You just hear those two going back and forth.
It was so abrupt. I look away from the screen for like 2 minutes, and all of a sudden they're riding on top of somebody's head. I'm like, what the hell
What did I
just
miss?
happened?
What did I miss?
I barely missed anything. All of a sudden there's a guy underneath the ship, and he's absurd. This movie, it's just things happen like a child's head. And then this happens, and then this happens.
Oh, God. It's so good. It's so good.
Also with that, the ogre who's middle-aged and feeling all his pains and his bones aren't doing so well. But his wife, who looks like the perfect housewife and stuff like that, is like the real monster of the pair, who's grinding feet into foot powder.
I loved that. Absolutely loved that. They help him out with his back and he just turns into a teddy bear and she's the one who's asking whether or not they're ready to eat. It's like, holy shit. It's just such a great stark contrast between the two.
I really love Money or Your Life,
Yep.
the TV
the
game show that repeated into the imagination zone, and just watching what was happening on that game show. I mean, dangling elderly people over a giant vat of custard, and the lady apparently answered the question wrong and had her husband face first into the custard, and like, I guess that's just what happens on Money or Your Life.
And the old dude is all beat up already, so like how many questions did she get wrong?
And she was perfectly fine in the show. All right, I mean, we could just go scene by scene through this and say how everything good was, but the pinnacle of everything being good in this movie is that you have your main cast, obviously different from everyone else in the cast, but that is never used to be funny. It's never called out. They are just like everyone else in the film. And that is the top reason that is such a good film.
It was very refreshing, yes.
Napoleon kind of calls it out.
But they chose to do that. That was them knowing they had an advantage, and they took that advantage. Yes. It wasn't to make fun of them, and it wasn't forced onto them.
No, it kind of fits into, trying to be of a child's imagination. The child thinking of, adults, but they're just the same size as him. They're child-sized adults. It kind of fits in the theme.
I can see that
of the whole thing. On the same note as casting, I believe it was Palin thought that a child could not carry a movie, and that's why they had all the dwarves in there to help move the movie forward with adult.
Okay.
Also, the child who was in this movie was not the child who was it was his older brother who was there to
audition, and he got the role.
Correct.
I bet that made going home fun.
Oh, I bet. So much fun.
What is probably a very quiet car ride.
I guess we can celebrate, but also
just not too loud. Your brother will hear.
Now, is there anything that anyone would like to bring up, Dan, that you don't care for in the film, or that just rubs you the wrong way?
Can we get a knuckle cracking sound effect?
There it is.
Ooh, that's
ow.
Just from gauging how the rest of my family was watching this movie, no one knew what was going on at all, and that was a huge problem. Like not understanding what was really going on.
Oh, I mean, this is one of those movies where if you look away for a minute, you're lost.
Absolutely.
Oh,
you go to the bathroom and come back.
No one left the room.
Well
so,
down the road from you.
I don't know. Like there was a lot of what are we watching? Like what I don't understand what happened. Where's the plot of this movie going?
This is back when movies didn't feel the need to cater to their audience and tell them what's going on. They expected you to come with the movie, not the movie to have to drag you along with.
I'm with Ken.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was trying my old man curmudgeon voice, but
listening to you guys like enjoy this movie, and I didn't. I didn't. I try really hard to enjoy all the movies that we watch, and this one is up there in movies I don't like anymore. I remember enjoying this movie when I was little.
I think in this case, it's a forest and trees type thing. I really like looking at the trees in this case, but the whole forest seemed like a haunted forest that was spooky, and I don't necessarily want to watch. It was a hard movie to get through
Yes,
just
yes.
because it was so disjointed and it was so all over the place and frantic. However, there are the bits and pieces in there that are the gold nuggets that you reach down into and you remember, and it makes the movie fun. So at least it's not a terrible slog to get through. Like resent the movie at the time I was spending with the movie. It was just difficult to get through.
It was The Life of Brian.
That's exactly the comment I was going to make. Life of Brian, I feel like as a structure for that movie, it was more sound, but it had less scenes that I remember. There's some things that I still chuckle if I think about, like, the like 30, 40 Romans all marching into the house and then all marching back out. That's a funny gig. I forgot about that until I just mentioned the name. But there's not really a lot to that movie that I come back and pull from the well. But I would rather take this movie over that movie because this had like Ken said, it had more trees to it. So there's a lot more things in this movie that if I stop and think about, Knight bursting out of a closet terrifying a child in his room, that's funny to me. Dude walking out of the ocean with a boat on its head, that's funny as hell to me. There's a lot of individual scenes in this movie that work, and they hit me in the right funny bone. But overall, as a movie, would I say it's a good movie? Is it a good structure? No, not at all. And like Ken said, it was a little hard. There were some spots where it was like it felt like it was dragging, and it felt like did 5 minutes just pass or 10 minutes just pass, and then all of a sudden, boom, you Sean Connery. It's like, oh, holy shit! Like the whole Titanic sequence kind of was like a slow burn for me for some reason. I don't know, but there's a lot in this film that just it punches me, makes me laugh, but I don't know if I'd ever go back and watch the entire thing again outside of going back to look at the scenes that made me giggle.
Yeah. Okay. I get that. I don't know. I think it just. I think what got me was that the movie made it feel like they being the cast were going to be like hopping through time, where in reality the cast is just hopping through the kid's bedroom. And if you weren't prepared for that kind of flip, because it happens about halfway through the movie of them, like, because they're in France during Italy, or not in France, they were in Italy through Napoleon's push through there, and then they jump to the Middle Ages, and then it just gets weird.
Yeah, so it goes from they're jumping from time to time to these weird things like the ogre and
Yeah, because
the giant man with
those
bone
were
on their head
things
and stuff. It's yeah,
that Kevin had drawn on his board, that had either they were drawings on his board, or they were the wall that the crew pushed through had all the different photos and drawings and whatever on it.
Well, yes, but that's the filmatic way of then making the viewers question whether the kid was asleep and dreaming the whole thing, or did it happen, and then he pulled the pictures out and it really truly did happen. So it's like, oh.
but you know he's living in a pretty bizarre world to start with, where they have blatant murder as a game show.
And technology where you can cook an entire meal in 15 seconds.
That's coming, man. That's gonna
Was it
happen.
cook? I forget what the act of making the food was.
There's so many things in this movie. There's a microwave. That's why the house started on fire because somebody microwaved their food for too long.
Well, it wasn't food. It was evil. Evil food.
I mean, from
Oh, God.
an outside standpoint, I agree with you guys. Like, there was a lot of things in this movie that I really enjoy, and I have good memories of. But man, like going back and watching it again, I don't think I would ever go back again, ever.
I think I might go back just to see how many other movie tropes I could get out of this to see just how densely packed it was. Because we went through the Gremlins, the Back to the Future 2 time food. There's so many other tropes that were taken It feels like it was taken from this movie. Maybe they existed prior to this movie, probably did. But it seems like this movie's just so densely packed with various things that were taken in the future. It's kind of neat.
Beetlejuice, like I mentioned.
Yeah.
Do plan on watching Brazil and the Adventures of Baron Munchausen soon, just to see where this whole story that Mr. Gilliam has written goes, because I haven't seen the other two.
They do not tie together. I'll be very clear with you about that.
Well,
they do not have anything to do with each other.
According to Mr. Gilliam, they are part of a trilogy.
Yeah, but so is the Cornetto trilogy. It doesn't necessarily mean
I
that
suppose.
Yeah, that's a good point.
they had ice cream in common. And that was an accident.
And between these three movies of Terry's that we can watch, I think Brazil is the easiest to follow, even though it's pretty freaking wild.
You could say that again.
But I think Baron Munchausen is kind of erratic like this film is, if I remember it correctly. But either way, I mean, hey, if we all want to watch them, I'm down for that. All right, well, I'm going to wrangle this back into the actual recording. One of the things that I put in the bad category, and it's not exactly bad because I didn't think about it until the very end, and I put the music. And I it's not that I think the music is bad, I just don't think it's good.
Hey, that end credits song is a banger. God, I swore again. Damn it.
Really? I wanted to skip the hell out of
what
that
do you mean?
song.
George Harrison.
Nah, I didn't care for it. But yeah, I mean, it's not a terrible thing that you go through a movie and you don't remember the music. That means it fit.
Yep. I have no recollection of the music other than that was like the last note that I made was that, I forget what the song was. That was something of George Harrison's and him singing. For those of you who don't know, it's Dream Away by George Harrison.
Okay.
Like one of my, I'll say more favorite films is almost like I listen to the soundtrack just as much as I watch the movie because the soundtrack enhances the movie. And I think actually the movie I'm thinking of that I can't remember the name of at the moment, if they didn't have that soundtrack, the movie would not be as good. But I think in this case, the music is there. It fills in, but it doesn't enhance.
Well, I think the soundtrack to Black Panther, that soundtrack is really good.
It's also got a really good movie to go along with it.
Yes. What was now that you're saying it, I'm thinking there was another one that I thought that had a really good. Oh, Tron Legacy.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's because I'm a huge fan of Daft
The
Punk.
soundtrack really made that movie. Yeah, I can't imagine that movie being any good without Daft Punk basically pulling it along.
I gotta get around to watching that just because I like classic Tron so much.
It's really good, and I was really disappointed when they said that there wasn't going to be a sequel to Legacy, but there might still be a sequel to Legacy.
If they smell enough money.
Yeah, right? I think it was that stupid Tomorrowland movie that bombed that ruined all chances for Tron, at least.
Yeah.
That's what I heard, I think.
Tomorrowland, because that was such a bad movie. It was so bad. Like, I wanted to enjoy Tomorrowland, and it's just oof.
Well, anyone else have anything?
I mean, I got a bunch of notes about like specific things in the movie that like irked me that I could rant about, but it's not necessary.
Dan, that's not.
I've already said what I like, how I feel about this movie. I like bits and pieces of it. I don't like the movie as a whole. So like me picking apart other scenes doesn't
Being
need to
too
be.
nice about it, Dan. You have to be angry.
No, I
The
don't
internet
need
only...
to be angry. If I do that, that raises my blood pressure, and that's just not good. I am chill here. I'm going to be.
You have to be angry to get internet famous.
No, I refuse.
All right, Dan, you're just holding us back then.
You can't see the squinting, but I'm squinting really
I
hard.
can feel it.
Good.
All right, so after watching it this time round, I've heard from Dan, his feelings have changed on it. Has anyone else had feelings that have changed on it since the last time you saw it?
I never watched it before, so yes, I have feelings towards the movie now. More
Same
than
boat.
just curiosity. How about you, Joe?
Well, I mean, I never saw the whole thing all the way through, so I always kind of just never went forward to watch it because these other films are just so good. I guess I was just scared that maybe this one wasn't as good and that I'd be disappointed. But I had such a good time watching it. I mean, like I've said, I'm a huge Terry Gilliam fan. I love his work. I love his humor. I love his creativity. This fell right into all of that. So if you like that stuff, this is right up there for you. It's not, like you said, it's not an easy movie to watch if you want the absolute structure of film, but it does. It has the circle. Everything comes back to that beginning again. So it does have some structure, but I think it has gone up in my opinion. My opinion of it is higher than what it was before. I am no longer scared of the movie. I enjoy the movie.
I enjoy the movie.
So, quick question. It's in my head. How do you guys feel about the kid wanting to stay with Sean Connery in the old times?
I don't blame him. His parents are awful.
Agreed.
It's like Harry Potter before Harry Potter.
Why are there so many kids movies focusing on shit parents?
Because it's an easy trope to pull off.
There's a good chance that kids are angry at the adults lording over them.
Do you think that movie producers are like, I want my kid to watch this and not think I'm a piece of shit, so I'm going to make adults in this movie just the worst?
See, son, I'm not so bad. Now eat your gravel and go to bed.
Oh, you had gravel.
Do you guys feel this movie can stand up today?
It'd be tough.
If somebody said they were interested in watching it, I'd be like, yeah, give it a try. It's worth your time. But it's I mean, the graphics are definitely outdated. The music is the acting is
Passable.
apart from it's passable at best.
Jeez.
And Sean
I thought I
Connery
had some
did a
really
great
good
job
acting.
acting. Sean Connery did a great job. Some of the people did. Child actors are child actors in this movie, and it just seems.
I love Michael Palin and that other lady coming back in multiple times and places as basically the same characters, just slightly different.
Same people through time. That was great.
Shelley Duvall a couple times, yeah.
They're very dramatic actors.
I really started watching it with a critical eye towards the end to be like, okay, would this be seen as acceptable? The HD transfer looks very good.
I watched it on the TV that had 120 hertz refresh rate, and for it looking real, the only issue that I noticed was that it's that issue with older movies that if they were using film for farther distance scenes and then jumping to a close up, they use different film for the close ups. And you can see that the long shots have a lower quality of film than the up close. The long shots are a little bit less real looking.
The models are also not exactly the best, but they're still pretty good. I like them, but they look like models.
They look like models, but you gotta remember the movie also came out in 81.
Yeah.
So like,
I swear they stole one of the shots for Lord of the Rings. Same camera move, same idea. I was like, man, that looks like that would be straight out of Lord of the Rings.
So they jumped forward in time. They stole a scene.
Ooh.
They're time bandits.
No. The people in the future
Ken.
use this movie.
Ken.
I tried. But it's easy enough to have a okay time with this movie. So if you're in the mood for something a bit bizarre, it's worth a watch. If you're into Monty Python, give it a watch. It's definitely worth a watch in that case.
Just go in remembering that it is not going to be the quality that is Holy Grail.
It's going to be a different type of movie because it's not a series of sketches. It kind of is, but actually it kind of is a series of sketches because he's going through time.
It is a series. I mean, that was one of the notes is that I got is that it has a lot of the disjointed joke setups.
Yep, because it is a series of sketches where they loop together with a similar theme, i.e. same main characters, and tie it together with a child's imagination. And so they can make it feel more like a narrative. But
Do we need the big question is, do we need Time Bandits to be rebooted, or is it good where it's at?
I think it's good where it's at. It's great where it's at.
I don't know how it would be redone. Either it would get redone to the point where it's not the same movie at all, and it's like a serious movie about a kid who gets kidnapped by people who travel through time.
ooh, a gritty Time Bandits?
Yeah, it ended up being gritty.
Ugh.
Or they would try to make it more politically correct, which doesn't work because it's an absurdist movie.
I would not want to see it be made gritty. I would not want to... I mean, you could do it. I don't know if I would care because it's not going to be Terry Gilliam unless you find someone who can make that same kind of absurdity and creativity, it's just going to be boring. Because time travel is not a fun mechanism anymore. It's been beat into the ground and it's a zombie. And zombies aren't entertaining anymore.
No, Star Trek uses it all the time, and it works.
Star Trek uses zombies?
No, time travel.
Time traveling zombies?
Hey, we got a new reboot. Not reboot. New boot. New boots.
Time traveling zombies in space.
That sounds terrible.
It's just a horde of zombies that occasionally blink into existence and float through the void of space, moaning.
Yeah, is it like localized time travel? So like the zombies are like constantly like moving through time? That'd be terrifying.
No. I like where Joe's going with this. There's like a rift, and all of a sudden there's just zombies floating in space. They're not dead. They don't need air. So they smack into the hull of ships and they bring them on board, going, "Oh my God, there's a person outside!" And then the zombies eat the crew, thus spreading this.
Or they start eating the crew. They eat half the crew, and then they blink out of space and time again.
Ooh, yes.
Once they run out of food source, they have to find new fresh flesh, so their body goes through a process that just flings them through time and space to find more food.
This is a thing that you introduce into a movie, like, oh, those time traveling zombies, as like a throwaway joke at the start of it, and halfway through the movie, right when something's right when they're about to figure out a problem, time traveling zombies come and eat half the crew members and disappear again.
There's a movie I recently watched that I had to pause because I was rolling on the floor laughing and unable to breathe for nearly 3 minutes or so. Like, no joke, it's been so long since that's happened to me. But I don't know if you guys saw that movie with Kristen Wiig, Barb and Star Go to Del Mar or whatever it is.
I've not heard of it.
Okay, it kind of came out. It was supposed to, I think, go to theaters, but because of the pandemic, it just kind of came to streaming and it was available. So I watched it. It was funny. But there's definitely a throwaway like that where they just mention something throwaway in the beginning of the film, and it's just like, what the hell? Like, what is that? That's stupid. Ha ha ha. And then at the end of the film, something happens, and that comes out of absolutely nowhere as the narrative as to why something happened. And I was just dying from laughter. I had to pause everything. Just laugh. It's been a long time since something like reduced me that much. But yeah, it's magical when that does happen.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let me see. I asked the question if it holds up. Did I ask the question if your minds have changed over time? So yeah. I think that means that we officially burned the movie Time Bandits almost to the ground, but the firemen came in and left it a smoldering mess, and us just standing there alone to watch over
Holding
it.
the ashes of our dead parents.
Yes.
Now, was it me, or was the smoke from the dead parents getting sucked back in, and everything was moving forward around them? That
bothered me too.
Flipped me out.
I didn't know if there was something like, how would they do that though? Like,
yeah, that I was just like, I don't understand how this is working. What's going on? Hell,
that's how evil works.
Poor kid had to be left with 2 smoldering piles of parents, and all the neighbors not giving 2 flips.
Walk away. What the hell?
Just business as usual.
Not even like a chuck on the chin and say, tough luck, kid. Just ignore them. Anyway.
Just go to the pub and have a pint. Alright, so if you'd like to see more, or see more.
Ooh, what?
If you would like to hear more. We're not...
we do it...
I'm not saying anything different. We're not doing anything different.
oh, thank God.
I thought we were gonna do some Little Shop of Horrors. I thought that was gonna happen.
Well, I thought we were going to go get brats.
Oh, see more.
I mean, someone's going to get fed.
Go to the home of the hamburger.
You'll be a dentist. There's so many. Oh. Someday.
Indeed. But if you could also like, comment, subscribe, do all those crazy things, because those help algorithms, and if we can't massage our algorithm, we'll always be at the bottom, and it'll take you forever to find us. Well, you already found us because you're listening to us, but other people will take much longer to find us if you don't, like share this stuff or profess your undying love for it by clicking thumb arrows and stuff. So do it. So anyway, come back in 2 weeks when this time we'll shoot some free throws with the Space Jam.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit behind the times, but that's also because we had a little miscalculation with when things were happening. So.
We've got the space, so we might as well jam it in here.
Oh no. Oh no.
So come back in 2 weeks when we rewind again.
Yeah, I'm gonna eat my Space Jam cereal and watch Space Jam, and it's gonna be a good time.